Right off in Boston, let's kick it off. Listen, I'm making this video so you understand what's going on with DJT and what's happened in the past with DWAC. I'm making this so the administration, the folks over at TG, Trump Media, Trump Technology Group, has a good understanding of what's actually happening with this security. I'm going to break it down as simple as I possibly can. Got a lot of information to cover. There's like 52 slides. If you really want to know, if you're a shareholder of DJT stock, and you want to understand what happened, watch this video. I'm going to explain the whole thing. Be sure to share this on Twitter and Truth Social and wherever else the investor community is getting information from. Take a look. Let's peer into this thing. Okay. So the first thing I want to show you guys is the ATS system, right? We have a ATS system that has a number of the same players as AMC. This is from FINRA. Take a look at that. UBS being the highest concentration of ATS orders as of 11/20/2023. This is all DWAC, mind you, people. And as we look closer to today's date, we'll see it's Citadel, Virtu, G1, which is SIG, Jane Street, 2 Sigma, Dominus. Now, for those of you who don't know, Dominus firms are small firms, right? They're smaller firms that are just basically a server, and they're owned by people, and they're just breaking apart orders and they're taking it in. And of course, UBS and Robinhood and so on and so forth. So, you know, like last time we had talked about this, we have ATS orders, like 50% of all the stocks that are being bought and sold are being used on the ATS, right? They're being basically hidden from the public. So you don't know what's going on. Well, luckily for you, I'm going to show you what's going on. That way you understand exactly how the price isn't going up and they're just shorting it down even further. I found 2 securities. In all, there was actually 3. There was the common stock, there were the warrants, and then there were the actual units. Yes, there are units involved as well. We find that Virtu and Dominus funds as of the 3rd of June shared the brunt of the warrant transactions and trade. I don't know who owns this, but they're small, and I would imagine they're doing this to deflect away from what Virtu and Citadel and the rest of these guys like UBS are doing. It makes the most sense. We did notice the first thing was that, you know, the same algos that were running on AMC and GME are also running on DWAC. We noticed this in 2022. And just so you know, it's the same group of individuals, same group of people, Goldman, UBS, FTX, Virtu, Citadel, right? And here's some of the tactics, techniques, and procedures they're using. Of course, naked short selling, which is their go-to, dark pool, PFOF, order, route buy orders through the routing the buy orders through the dark pool where the stocks are parked and the velocity is killed. The sell orders are routed to the exchange, so it looks like there's actually sells going on that are legitimate. There's a retail we're talking about. So one of the things is I'm not certain that any of these securities, these derivatives, have underlying stocks. Okay. I wonder how many of these officers at DJT have their share lending turned on inadvertently or whatever, but that needs to happen. Everybody needs to turn off their stock lending. Okay. That needs to happen very, very quickly. I cannot stress that enough. If you want, transfer your shares to somewhere like Computer Share, hold certificate. That way nobody does that. You know, borrowing without actually having consent is a huge crime, and you just can't do that, you guys. And people do that sort of thing. So a lot of the buy pressure is not being printed on the chart, on the actual chart. Our friend Bam figured this out, and he has got the video graphic proof for this. This is some of the stuff that's happening. You got 10, 20 seconds, maybe 30 seconds of no activity on the stock market, on the actual stock itself. So you notice from 6:30, 13 seconds, 23 seconds, there's no activity whatsoever. And they're basically trying to barcode it. And it's that interval of time, where are the stocks going? Where are they being hidden? That's something that we found. And these are all high frequency traders doing this sort of thing. So probably SIG, Citadel, and maybe Virtu. We're finding all kinds of irregularities within the trades itself, on a granular level. We found bursting basket manipulation. Bursting basket manipulation involves a trader rapidly executing a series of trades to artificially alter the price of a basket of securities. So it's a basket of securities. There's a number of meme stocks in this, presumably, and they're running the same predatory algorithm. The flurry of activity misleads the market about the true nature of the supply and demand, causing price distortions. This is where they knew the naked short selling, so on and so forth. The manipulators profit by trading these securities at the artificially inflated or deflated price before prices revert back to their actual market levels. This is how they make their money in between. This form of market manipulation is illegal. It undermines the integrity of the financial markets as a whole because there are so many of these stocks that they're doing this to. It's not just one. We also found in the discovery documents in the FTX trial, there was a number of securities linked to Donald Trump. We need to get further discovery to show them that, hey, these stocks were all connected to DWAC. And perhaps they're still, I don't know if they're still running or not, because FTX is, defunct. But they did put out a document, a request to the court asking that there's no more, that there be no more class action lawsuits against FTX. And presumably, and they're hacking my computer all the time for my case. Presumably, they saw the evidence and they probably wanted to harm investors trying to get their money back. And FTX is scummy like that. But the Trump tokens, I mean, you see them right here. There's a number of them. This is a Democrat Party thing. This is not a market maker. This is the Democrats, because you know how buddy they were with the Democrats, Sam Bankman-Fried and all those guys paying people off and whatnot. You got these securitized warrants. We find these off Bloomberg. There's a number of those. They're all trading on the NYSE. And one of the perpetrators, one of the alleged defendants, offers securitized warrants, and that's UBS. And we're going to get into UBS a little bit further. This is where I think this is the globalist part, where the globalists really kick in. It's the folks at UBS who are already in systemic risk with Credit Suisse and AMC and GME. But this particular reason for destroying Donald Trump's company is more based off of the World Economic Forum. UBS is their bank and it's their financial institution. So it makes sense that they would try to do everything in their power to make sure that Trump does not win. And how do I know the linkage between all these guys? Well, it's very simple. It's Barclays independent manager Don Fitzpatrick, who holds the role of chief executive officer at the Soros Fund Management. Her previous roles includes 25 years at UBS and UBS Asset Management, and Barclays has, I believe, 10%. I think 10% ownership in the company. So yeah, I think that's what's happening here. I think Don Fitzpatrick is probably involved in this thing, and the fact that she's a Soros fund manager, this chief investment officer, that more or less tells me everything I need to know. These folks, on the other hand, ARK Global Investments, I think it's a Shanghai base. They've got units, and without getting into a big rigmarole, we need to get discovery on these guys because I don't know how many other derivatives they base off of these units, if they have or not. We need to have a really deep dive into these folks to see who's doing what. I believe that it is a conflict of interest because they're shareholders and they're naked short selling, or if they're involved in some kind of scheme to do something, we need to really look into that. Now, the Barclays issue, there it is, 10% owner. There was a couple of other characters that I was really concerned about. One being Patrick Francis Orlando. He was the former CEO of DWAC during the initial stages. Now, this guy had a ton of shares, and it's my belief that this guy, who was fired, by the way, this guy was fired by Donald Trump very, very publicly, by the way. All right, very publicly. He's got millions of shares, and he's got them in different classes, and they can be securitized. And I believe what's happened is this guy's done this. He's securitized these stocks that he's had, and he's loaning them out. And since 2022, he's probably made, from my estimation, at least $500 million in lending alone. I'm positive of that. And here's the evidence that says that. Remember, when Donald Trump fires you, it's very public, it's very embarrassing, it's very humiliating. This guy took it to heart. I believe this guy did this. He's motivated to harm the company by public embarrassment. This guy was not a good CEO. Don fired him, and that was the end of the bit. That was the end of it. He could have just gone away. He made money. He could have just gone away. And then he tried to block the merger, a $10 billion deal, you guys. So everything about this guy, Orlando, seems sketchy to me. I don't like it. I think we need to find out what happened with that, see if he's holding any kind of employment agreements, and seeing if these guys, because if he was acting as a CEO and he did this afterwards, he might have a period where he's still not allowed to harm the company. You know, he filed the lawsuit, but he's trying to harm the company. And he had a fiduciary responsibility. I want to see when he filed those derivatives, if the share lending was turned off. I want to know about this guy specifically, Orlando, because he's got to have co-conspirators working with him. They're the ones that listed the security for borrowing. They securitized derivatives, and it's payback basically for being fired because he sucks. It's as simple as that. And I think facilitated by Ron DeSantis' buddies, Doug Sifu and Ken Griffin over at Citadel, with the promise of Treasury Secretary or something else, because I know Ken was into that sort of thing a couple years back, and I think Ron promised him that, and I think Ron is, Ken is Ron's hitman when it comes to this particular security. He carries water for him. He does the execution bit in terms of stock. And I think Goldman Sachs and these smaller firms are facilitating liquidity. So here's the Republican element. So you got Republican, you got the WEF, you got Democrats all trying to destroy Donald Trump's company and do a bust out scheme. And I'll explain that here in a minute. Take a look at the cancellations. This is NASDAQ, right? This is an egregious amount of cancellations. Every time this stock gets volatile, there's a bunch of spikes, right? Now, NASDAQ's got the TRF, which is where Donald Trump stocks was trading. Now, here they are, DWAC units, DWAC warrants. And every time the stock has a rip, there's just an immediate cancellation of orders. Presumably it's either spoofing or these exchanges are just canceling orders, trying to harm him and the company. Here's New York Stock Exchange. This is all the different markets that the New York Stock Exchange has. Once again, 2022 is their big year. Sorry about that, you guys. And here's all the separate exchanges. This is all the data. We went through all the 605 data, and you'll notice it's tremendous amounts. These are not small numbers, folks. These are huge numbers, you know, in the millions and possibly sometimes even in the billions. Once again, IEX is another one. And if you'll notice, you know, they're all the same. They're all functioning the same around the same periods of time. They're all shorting and canceling shares all at the same time. And I think that's not a coincidence at all. That's CBOE, tremendous. That's a billion shares, CBOE, a billion in the beginning, and then another 500 million this year during the conversion and the actually the merger rather. So be aware of that. Once again, in the billions combined total, and it's just egregious. It really is. Here's Citadel's cancels. Once again, huge numbers. Total cancellations combined. The Virtu numbers, and I have all the details and the data for this. I'm just wanting to show us some pictures just so you understand how bad it is. Cancel again, all Virtu. This is UBS. Once again, you're seeing the same kind of behavior patterns. They're starting to get heavy in 2024 again for cancellations of for DWAC and DJT shares. Let's see what else. Oh, here's the rest of them. That's all the different exchanges that they own. And I'll just run through this quickly. So by exchanges, we're talking about, like I said, in the millions into the billions. Tremendous amounts. This is April. This is DJT. And this is March 2024. You know, 100 million shares. This one right here, from I believe that's CBOE. I have to check again. I have got the other data set. But here's the other stuff that I found by the exchanges in April, 281 million. We've got canceled shares, 11 million, 5 million. These are the market makers, UBS and everybody else. DJT canceled shares for April, 26 million, 18 million, 3 million. This is UBS. So what they're doing is they're kind of playing past the ball around a little bit. That's what I think is happening, and they're passing it to each other. And I've got some policy advice, policy guidances regarding this, and I'm willing to share this with the administration. But what we have here is an issue of over lending, and I've got strategies and I got some guidance for Devin Nunes, if they want to reach out to me again. We did speak to members of his committee or his company, but we didn't really get anywhere. There's some divergences, but I would like to speak to him again. The overlending is where it gets really tricky for us. The fact that Equilend produced data that Trump Media was one of their highest grossing borrowing of shares. How is that possible? Everybody's holding, nobody's selling. Explain that to me. So who are they borrowing from? These are just really, really crazy things that we have to really investigate, that this is a real probable issue. And you got to turn off your stock lending. You absolutely have to turn it off. Get ensure the company officer sign a note turning off share lending, including their lenders and financial partners. Do a share count with share intel, communicate with the shareholders, explain to them what's going on here and why this is happening. I believe this thing is going to be a challenge. I believe it's doable though. I want to just finally show you guys this. And this is how I believe the conspiracy is really working against them. You got all these Wall Street guys, the hedge funds and the market makers and everybody else. And we got FINRA looking the other way, the DTCC looking the other way, the SEC looking the other way. The filings are a myriad. You got Dodd-Frank that protects the hedge funds that are harming DJT. You got heightened security requirements, censure requirements from PSLRA. That's the lawsuit. That's the law that governs private securities lawsuits. And you got Section 11, who punishes shareholders who are in actual pursuit of justice. So you guys, this is how they disadvantage us. This is how they harm us. And the New York Southern District and the Second Appeals Court, also in Manhattan, is right in Wall Street's backyard. They always favor Wall Street. I've never seen a point where anyone could file a lawsuit in New York and get results. You'd get better luck in somewhere like Delaware, or perhaps, like I'm filing mine in Boston with the judge that is, I think, pretty fair. He's a military, he's not a military guy, but he's from a FISA judge, and I think he's a fair guy. And these are the things that I see that I think the DJT Trump stockholders should know about. I've done all the hard research, I've done all the hard work. We've got videographic evidence. We have all kinds of interesting stuff that we picked up, you guys. So please ensure that Mr. Nunes sees this and the folks over there. That way we can get a conversation going and maybe get some justice for you guys, because this is insane. 28 million shares being routed to the dark pool. That stock's never going to go up unless you guys fight. It's just the way it is. So that's all I'm going to say about that for right now. Off from Boston, signing out.